Star Network. Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, let's talk about what's happening out of Washington first. As the House of Representatives is looking to vote on whether they should expel Representative George Santos, the lying congressman, from Congress. This is in light of the latest situation with him being on trial for fraud and other issues coming from the fact that he lies so much. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, we're going to have a very special guest, a couple of them. The first one is Mr. Michael Blake, who serves as the former vice chair, who is the former vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the state of our democracy. We're going to have that conversation. And then at the 4 o'clock mark, we're going to be talking to Dr. Carrie Mitchell Brown, who is an equity strategist and cultural architect. And she talks about how she is doing the work of combating anti-Blackness in corporate America. And I got something for you that President Biden is doing as he continues to move along in making history for Black America. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Let's jump right in because we got so much to cover as normal, folks. And I'm so excited because we are streaming live on our home network of blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you download the app for free. Follow us on all social media platforms. And of course, we're asking for your financial support to power this movement because no one else is going to pay for the type of content that we are putting out there on their own. If they do, they're going to want us to change it and everything. So we want to make sure that our content stays unadulterated, unfiltered, and always rooted in truth. So make sure you do your part to support us here at Black Star Network, and please give something today. Also, we're streaming on Amazon News on your Fire TV. Make sure you check us out there. We're also streaming on Amazon Prime Prime Video. You can check us out on the Prime Video app under Live TV. Then go to news or find us at Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, then news. We will certainly appreciate you checking us out there. We're also streaming on Freevee, where you can find us on news, on now, and then go straight to news. So that's go to right there into Freevee. Definitely check us out there. And of course, on Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right, let's see who's in here as we chat it up. We got our online culture crew, and folks are streaming live right now on Roland Martin's YouTube page. That's where you will find the illustrious culture crew. That's the best group of watchers in the history of watching videos on YouTube. My fantastic culture crew. Folks are checking in from around the country. I see you, Pastor Damon Blissett. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Peace, big brother. Thank you once again for always locking it down. Who else we got? And we got some stuff streaming right now too, folks. I'm taking a look here. But let me go to the crew. Conscious Thought, I see you. Thank you so much for checking in. Cindy D. I can't wait to hear what y'all got to say about today's conversation. Pauline Hurt, checking in. Pauline, thank you so much. Kathleen Davis, good to connect with you once again, Kathleen. Hey, Kathleen. You don't like my music. Thank you so much for checking in. I truly appreciate that. And I see folks are still coming in. Make sure y'all hit that like button on the as y'all coming into the chat room. We truly appreciate it. Your likes definitely mean something, especially in this latest situation of algorithms. Your likes mean the world to us. So make sure y'all hit that like button. And of course, continue to tune in. All right, folks, let's talk a little bit about, let's get this part about it. And then we got to take a first quick pause. But did you know that the House of Representatives is looking to vote on whether they should expel Representative George Santos from Congress today? Did y'all know that? Yeah, folks, it's happening. Y'all know who George Santos is. This is the representative out of the state of New York. And he is now in the crosshairs of not just the House of Representatives. for Congress, but he's also in the crosshairs of New York Republicans who are leading the charge to oust him from office, which will require a supermajority of the House. Let me just share this very quickly from NBC News, folks, as to what this actually means, how this is going to be done. Take a look at this quote here. Take a look. The House of Reps, they're going to hold this vote today on whether to expel the lying congressman, the embattled New York Republican who admitted to lying about his background and who has been indicted on federal fraud charges, to oust Santos. The resolution backed by his fellow New York Republican folks will need the support of at least 2/3 of voting lawmakers. If the effort is successful, if that is successful, folks, it will further dwindle the GOP's already minuscule majority in the House. They already feeling it. So that just simply means, folks, that we're looking at a situation here, and it might happen. It may happen. It may happen where they actually will try to set some boundaries and rules, and he might become the martyr. Since the GOP is under the crosshairs of a lot of people in this country, folks are always asking the question, what is going to be the future of the Republican Party? We've asked that question many times here on the show, and people are seeing how this Republican Party, the party that was once considered to be the party of family, the party of God, the party of law and order, how they have just simply fallen apart under all of those things. And at this point, we're looking at a situation where everyone that comes out or that represents that party is just toxic, man. What's your take on this? Join us in a conversation as the House is looking to see whether they should expel him. Should they expel him? Should they expel Representative George Santos of New York? What's your take on this? It's interesting. Sean, you checked in. Sean Ryan, thank you for checking in, as always, being a part of the crew. You say, LOL, they even had the old Speaker of the House cussing Santos out on a hot mic. I remember that. Yep, absolutely. Pastor Damon Blissett, you say, get his behind out of there with 3 chairs. Get his behind out of there. Well, we're going to have to see. And, Tiana, you said they should expel him along with the January 6th crew. How about that? How about that? Absolutely. The fact that he lies so much, man, like I can't even keep up with the lies, man. Like he's a pathological liar, folks. Corinna, you checked this and looking forward to discussing Santos. So the House is willing to vote on his expulsion, but not only the insurrection is complicit in January 6th. It's called selective outrage. I think Chris Rock did a comedy special on that. Isn't that what that's called? Selective outrage, Corinna? Where you're like, I want to be mad about something. So let me choose what I'm going to be mad about. Let me take the lowest hanging fruit, George Santos. It looks like this guy just doesn't cut the mustard. So we're going to be mad at him. If you start going up the ladder of lies, you start going up the ladder of deception and the consequences of all of those things, then it starts to get a little fuzzy, Sean, you also say boot him out, and then give him some ice cream, some icy hot for his rear end. I hear that. That's crazy. I can't believe that they allowed him to serve for this long. At this point, they should have kicked this man out. But they're looking to do it. And we're gonna take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to talk about censoring, because my concern now is that, okay, George Santos is one of those things. It's like, it's a given. This guy is not good for public service. But then how far do you go with that? How far do you go when kicking people out for lying, you know what I mean? Like now, if you're going to be the moral authority in a situation like this, do you go down the line, or you just go after those who are just blatantly obvious? Like, where does it start? Where does it end? Folks, I want to get your take on that as we talk a little bit about this. Plus, in a few minutes, I'm going to bring in our first special guest to talk to us about the state of democracy, because George Santos is not the only one being censored. I'm gonna share with you some other folks that are being censored in Congress as well. So we're just getting cooking right here. So stay with us. It's all happening on the other side right here on the culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being part of the conversation. All right, folks, we've been talking about Representative George Santos, the New York Republican, who is under a federal investigation charge for fraud. He's also is known as the lying congressman because he lied about everything from where he lived to who he is to what his name is. His background, everything, his family history, all of it. He's been lying. And so we're talking a little bit about what's the latest situation here out of Washington, D.C., where the House of Representatives are actually determining today whether they should expel George Santos from Congress, given the fact that his lying has caused great concern, especially for his home state of New York, as Republicans there are leading the way to try to get him out of office, and they should. According to the Republicans, the resolution that according to the House, there's a resolution right now where they're holding that Santos is, quote, not fit to serve in Congress. And this was introduced on the House floor last week by Representative Anthony Desposito, who are a Republican out of New York. Ahead of that vote, Representative Despacito and four other New York Republicans sent a letter Wednesday morning to colleagues urging them to back the resolution. According to the New York Republicans, they say, as Republican members from the New York delegation, we fully support Santos' expulsion and ask all of our colleagues to join us in voting yes. Yeah. They also addressed several concerns from colleagues about expelling Santos. According to the report, that in response to cries of let the voters decide, the New York Republicans said voters were, quote, robbed of that opportunity when they were duped into voting for an accused fraudster. And to those concerned about risking the GOP's already slim majority, this issue is not a political one, but a moral one. How about that, Corinna? They can find moralities somewhere. So, I mean, if they find morality somewhere, isn't that a start? My thing is, where does it start and where does it end? You know, I mentioned this selective outrage, right? Does it start like, oh, we're gonna start putting out these bad actors. We're gonna start expelling these bad actors. So if you expel George Santos for lying, are you expelling him really for lying, or is he just expelling him because he's just not making the GOP party look so good? I mean, there are a number of GOP folks that are representatives that are under, investigation, Trump, that have legal issues, Trump, and who seems to, in some people's eyes, not fit to serve the American people. Excuse me, Trump. Excuse me. So, if that's the case, does it start where? Where does that start, folks? Deidre Hall, you said George Santos should have been gone. I don't know why he's still there. I don't know either. But one thing I do know, Deidre, and I think you know this as well, that if they're moving forward and expelling their own person, then that must mean either a couple of things, folks. He's messing up the money. He's messing up the money, or he's messing up the money. The same way. Now, look, these are Republicans. The same way that Matt Gaetz moved forward and removing Kevin McCarthy. Look at this. The Republicans are going in on their own selves. Big brother Willie Frazier, you said within the parties, censure happens two ways. With Democrats, it starts with allegations to get kicked out. With Republicans, it starts with indictments and convictions. Ouch. But I think you got a great point, big brother Willie. I think you got a great point. Lori Parks, you said they needed Santos to vote for McCarthy, and they needed him to help vote in Johnson. Now he's no good to them now. With friends like these, Lori, with friends like these who need enemies, right? Anastasia, you said he only followed in lane with what 45 was doing. What does that say about the rest of them that are still there? That's the question. That's the big question, Anastasia. Where does it start and where does it end? If you are going to police yourselves, like I think we've seen this model before within the current police department. They have an internal affairs bureau, right? They have a special department of folks who check the behavior of officers. So it sounds like now is the Republican Party advocating for there to be a special section of folks within the GOP to check the behavior, to check the qualifications, to check if these representatives are quote unquote fit to serve. It's a nice idea on paper, but the question becomes, can it really happen? Do they have the will, not just the morality or any sense of moral authority? Do they have the will to check what's wrong with not just the party, to check what's wrong with poor leadership? The United States of America, the American people deserve good leadership because we have been under crazy leadership for so long that we don't want to even be led anymore. So we will have to see. I got to take another quick pause, but we will have to see. I'm keeping my eyes on this vote. And if they find that if they decide to move forward, that's going to be another history-making decision for the Republican Party. And that means that this is going to be another shift. But again, I think it's going to lead to us to ask, okay, fine. If you expel George Santos for lying or for making the party look bad, does this mean that you're going to do the same with any other Republican that fit into that category? And I feel pretty confident in saying a lot of them fit in that category. But we will see. We will see. We will see. Folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's totally switch gears, but let's get our special guest, Mr. Michael Blake, to come in and join us for the conversation as we talk about the state of our democracy. I'm going to share with you another level of censure that is happening in Congress as they're trying to censure George Santos. Wait till you hear the story of what they're doing to a Michigan congressperson in Congress, and a woman that you may not even expect it that would be checked. Look, it's going to get more interesting. So stay with me. The conversation is just heating up right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Let us now welcome our very special guest, our first guest for the day, as we talk about what's happening with the House of Representatives and Representative George Santos. This is just one of many things that is happening that is around the issue of trust, that's around the issue of competence, that is really at the core of the issue of whether this form of democracy has it run its course or it needs to be changed. Something needs to be done. So I'm very excited to have my first special guest joining us this afternoon, as he formerly serves as a New York Assemblyman from the 79th District, and he was the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee from 2017 to 2021. I want to welcome to the airwaves of the culture here on the Black Star Network, Mr. Michael Blake. Michael, thank you so much, brother, for joining us. How are you feeling this afternoon? Oh, I think we got you on mute, brother Michael.
I just said, no, good to be with you, and love the energy and vibes that you're already giving right here.
Oh, absolutely, brother. We got a lot of energy, man, because this thing is serious. I'm trying to figure this out, brother Michael. This thing is serious. Let's talk a little bit about this idea of censoring. What do you make of this? The House Republicans are moving forward to censure. And then I want to talk to you about, there's actually another resolution that they're using to censure another congressperson. But what do you make of this? Is this the GOP's way of trying to reform, to try to make amends? What are we seeing here from your vantage point, brother?
Look, there has to be accountability when folks don't do their job and act the fool. Right? We just got to call it what it is right now, and that's the premise point that is existing around George Santos. He's a pathological liar who deceived his constituents, who won't acknowledge the responsibilities of what he is doing. There was a story that I saw pop up earlier today that while they had this completely shaky and shady operation of campaign contributions, he was also standing up a campaign consulting firm to shake down other candidates. So everything about George is a game. It's Curious George, like we talk about in the books back in the day. And so the broader context around expelling of House members, it should not be something that you pursue easily, but we are in a scenario where I do think it's necessary for their own sentiment of accountability. But then lastly, we do have to ask ourselves, and you started to say it a few moments ago, where is the line, right? There's a bunch of folks that were lying, they were acting a fool in the conference. A lot of folks who were insurrectionists. Their own speaker was one of the primary, if not the primary architect in defending and supporting what Donald Trump was doing. I think the only reason they're doing this is out of fear of political retribution rather than doing what they needed to be doing and holding themselves accountable in the first place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to get your take on this too, brother Michael, because just as much as the House has voted to this resolution for George Santos, the NBC News reported they will vote to table a GOP resolution to censure Representative Rashida Tlaib out of Michigan over her criticism of Israel, accusing her of inciting an insurrection in a House office building during a protest in support of a ceasefire in Gaza. The chamber will vote to table this a Democratic resolution to censor the author of the Tlaib resolution, far-right Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the representative out of Georgia, for some of her past controversial actions and remarks. This is coming from NBC News. So we're at a point in our politics, even in our democracy, that the idea of speaking out against something is becoming even though it is granted by the founding document of the United States Constitution, it's still frowned upon. And so can you help us to kind of like give us some insight on how do we reconcile this? How can we say we live in a free and just society? And then when a national situation like Israel and the Hamas conflict happens, and there are a lot of talk around it, that those who speak out against it are often ostracized, and they are felt like they can't speak out. So what are we seeing in that respect?
Got a lot of levels and dynamics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right there. So let me start from the premise that Sister Rashida used to work for me.
Wow. Yes, sir.
In the state of Michigan, she was on our successful campaign team to get President Obama elected president. And so I know her work and I know her heart. We have to underscore that there can and are existing simultaneous realities. Hamas is not Palestine. Bibi Netanyahu's government is not Israel. So you can be upset, disgusted, angered, frustrated, wanting accountability, of saying Hamas killing Jewish people is unacceptable, and at the same time say it's inhumane for the Israeli government to be bombing refugee camps in Gaza, right? And the framing of us articulating that criticizing the latter makes you anti-Semitic is nonsensical, because that same energy is not being stated on the other side. I've had several friends on both sides who have been upset with me because they believe I'm standing on one side. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, and I've been a minister also since 95, I recognize that hurt people hurt people. So if you are feeling like your people are under attack and you're seeing that your people are under attack and you're watching that, a lot of times you can't even hear the other side. You can't even hear what's going on the other side. And so when it comes to Congresswoman Tlaib, Marjorie Taylor Greene needs to just sit down and be quiet around insurrection and around disruption, because her consistent behavior has been the epitome of that. Disruptive, racist, discriminatory, and completely against all democratic entities that exist. And so in this frame that we are in, we have to be able to understand that you're going to be uncomfortable by things that are said, but it doesn't mean that you can't learn and listen. And we are watching this in real time, tying it together. I do think there is a great irony that is existing here, where many Democratic leaders are uncomfortable in speaking up in what they feel out of fear. And let me remind everyone.
And when you say, I just want to real quick, when you say democratic, you're talking about democratic in terms of the system that we're part of as a democracy, or democratic in terms of the party?
In terms of the party, because of the fear of, and because of the lack of full awareness and appreciation, the fear of retaliation, right? Like the framing that someone is afraid to say it is inhumane, wrong, and unjust to cut off power, to cut off water, to cut off routes. The fact that someone is afraid to even say that speaks volumes around the broader concerns that we should have about the system itself. And Absolutely. So the dynamic has to be one where we take that step back, that you may be uncomfortable with what people are saying, but they're speaking from an anger and a fear that exists that is hard to articulate unless you have gone through it individually.
Absolutely. Look, Brother Michael, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with you. Crew, I want you to join us in the discussion as I'm talking to our first special guest, Brother Michael Blake, who was the former vice chair of the Democratic National Committee from 2017 to 2021. We're talking about the state of democracy. We're talking about the idea of being censored. And I want to hear from you. So post your comments on our YouTube page as we're streaming live under Roland Martin's YouTube page. And of course, stay tuned. More conversation on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, We're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We have been talking to Brother Michael Blake, who served as the New York Assemblyman from the 79th District and was the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee from 2017 to 2021. We're talking about the state of democracy. We're talking about censure. And it's based upon 2 resolutions that are up in the House. One resolution is looking to table a GOP. It's just a GOP resolution to censure Representative Rashida Tlaib of Michigan over her criticisms of Israel, accusing her of inciting an insurrection in a House office building during a protest in support of a ceasefire in Gaza. Then the Democrats put forward a resolution. They're looking to vote to table a Democratic resolution to censure the author of that bill, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for some of her past controversial actions and remarks. So my thing is right now, Brother Michael, when we got 2 elephants fighting.
That's one analogy to go with right there. I feel you.
You got 2 elephants fighting, or elephant and a donkey fighting. Who's going to feel the brunt of that? That's going to be the grass. That's us. That's the constituents. How do we, as Black folks in this country, really get a piece of not just this madness. I'm talking about a real piece of pie of this pie that we're being served right now, in the terms of poor leadership, in terms of unfulfilled promises, in terms of the apathy that comes with being a part of a system, believing in a system, and yet the system is still not speaking to your needs. I mean, we're in a serious situation, and then you got the Trump factor. Then you got, the importance of voting. Then you got voting suppression. I mean, you got all of these things. So where does Black America, how does Black America move forward in the midst of all of this?
You got to stay in the game. I think it's important that we take a few steps back to assess things holistically, right? So a lot of times we feel that nothing is happening. That's just not the case. However, we've been in pain for centuries that it feels and that we understand that not enough has happened and not enough is happening fast enough. So when I was running African American outreach under President Obama, I would regularly have people come up to say, you all are doing nothing. That's not the case. That's clearly not the case. And if we have that conversation, like, let's stop, let's take a step back. However, when we're in this zone now, we can do better about communicating what's happening. We could talk about student loan relief. We could talk about what's happening with minority women businesses. We could talk about what's happening around access to healthcare, et cetera, making sure people have more jobs. All that is intertwined. And so in this zone now, you're watching what seems just like a lot of noise. You're seeing and hearing, they're talking about Santos, they're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but they're not talking about me, right? They're not talking about what's happening on my block. They're not talking about how we're spending all this time and energy for emergency aid and what's going on in Israel and the Middle East and Palestine. But where's that emergency aid that happens on the block? When I'm trying to figure out what's happening in my life. And so naturally folks will say, well, then this is not for me. We're not doing what we need to be doing. We're not rocking in the way we need to rock it. And so in that regard, I'm going to say to everybody, you got to stay in the game. You got to stay in the game when it comes to what's happening at the Collective PAC. Shout out to Quentin and Stephanie Brown James and what they're doing to make sure we're mobilizing the next generation of Black candidates and Black organizers at the Collective, or the National Democratic Training Committee, and what Kelly and his entire team is doing. So we mobilize that next generation of great organizers. I'm in the Shy right now because this is the 15th anniversary of President Obama's election this weekend. And if he didn't set the tone, I don't get in the game in that regard. And so you cannot sit on the sidelines, because to the earlier comment that was made, sitting on the sidelines is giving the people that want to hold us back more power. Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Johnson, all of them, they want us to sit on the sidelines. They want us to have the arguments and be divided when it comes to what's happening around migrants and access for migrants and our brothers and sisters. They want us to be divided in saying that not enough is happening for Black people versus Latino people and vice versa. They want us to say that, you know what, you're getting that student loan relief, but you haven't got enough relief. To create that dynamic of you feeling that I need more, but yet believing the lie that they can give you more. The Republican Party has not given a damn about what Black people should be doing, need to be doing, how to support us. So don't be confused. They are dividing us because they want to understand, and for you to understand, they cannot win if we are united. Lastly, I would always rather to rock with someone who is helping me 90% of the time than someone that's trying to hurt me 90% of the time. And until someone can articulate to me, well, I'll sit out and not be involved, the alternative is having someone who can help you be more involved and be more empowered. I just don't understand why we would choose to stay out the game.
I mean, that makes sense, Brother Michael. Here's the thing, just a little caveat to think about on this, which I know you have thought about because this is what you do. But the simple fact is there's a level of hope and faith that's attached to staying in the game. Like, you still have to believe that the game can still be won. You still have to believe that that the playing field of the game is level. But if the field is rocky, you got hills and valleys in the field.
Yeah. You
can't see past the 50 because of that major hill. You can't get past the 70. It's becoming a situation where people are like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? So speak to that sentiment that some of our people do really have, and it's a justified sentiment, is it not?
It is. There's no question about it. Let me break it down. This past Sunday, I'm a Jets fan. This past Sunday, Jets Giants, right? Pouring rain. We already got disappointed because Aaron Rodgers got hurt early in the year. Pouring rain. Can't do anything. Could have made the decision when you're still down by 3 with 24 seconds left. Yo, we good. There has to be that decision that no matter how bad the conditions are, I'm going to still keep staying in the game.
Okay.
And so the framing of what do we do, from what we do at our team, Atlas Strategy Group, which for the last 10 years, we've been implementing equity and justice across the country. What we do at Next Level Sports of saying we can have a Black-owned sports TV network to amplify our stories. The work is happening to say that we have to fight for this justice. When Ron Alston out of Louisiana is stepping up for justice when it comes to social media cases and saying we're tired of social media companies taking advantage of us. When Brooke Hodge in LA is saying we can find more ways to deploy resources so that opioid lawsuits and settlements are actually coming to our communities. These are the things that we can be doing. And what I would say to the people is our pain is legit. Our pain is rational. Our pain has come from generations and centuries of distrust and heartache against us. But our ancestors do not want you to succumb to the pain. Our ancestors want us to keep pressing forward. And our responsibility in this moment, from this November till next November, is that we have an election approaching where on one side, Biden and Harris are saying, let's keep going. And the other side, you have Trump and whoever will be with him literally saying, we do not believe in democracy. We don't have a choice. Be in the game, because the alternative is us out the game permanently.
There it is. Michael Blake, who is a former assemblyman for the state of New York. He's a former vice chair for the Democratic National Committee. Brother Michael, I love your insight and analysis. I would love to bring you back on. I know you got to hop off, so we would love to bring you back on and at a future date and continue to chop it up, brother, to talk a little bit more about some of these dynamics and factors within the state of democracy. But I thank you for your time with us this afternoon.
Happy to be with y'all, even though I could feel a little bit of just shade, but it's okay.
Hey, no,
we're 4-3 right now. 4-3. So everybody just stay with me right now. Don't be confused when Aaron Rodgers comes back at the end of the year. People are gonna be getting on that bandwagon, but it's okay. I'll come back on the show no matter what.
Hey, look, I'm a Ravens fan, so it's Lamar Jackson and company for me.
So you feeling good? Yo, y'all probably the best team in the league right now. I understand why you're feeling that way. But let us rock.
Oh man, my brother Michael Blake. Thank you so much, brother, for your time and being so good for the culture. We truly appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
All right, folks. We got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's shift gears. Let's talk a little bit as we talk about that level of trying to figure out what's going on in democracy. Let's also talk about what's going on in corporate America. My next guest, who's going to be joining us, she's going to be talking about how she's doing the work of combating anti-Blackness in corporate America. And she's doing it in a very, very unique way. So, folks, you don't want to miss this conversation with Dr. Carrie Mitchell-Brown joining us on the other side. So stay with us. It's all happening on The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as we are just moving along in these discussions today. And before we get to our very special guest, our next guest, we just want to remind you folks that we are streaming on a number of different platforms. Let's start with our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence. Follow us on all social media platforms at Black Star Network. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook. You can like us on Facebook. But we are doing that work of being a digital space, a digital movement that's bringing relevant, unadulterated, unfiltered content like nowhere else as we speak to the issues, the heart, the mind, the spirit, the soul of Black America. So make sure you do your due diligence. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. And more importantly, you heard Brother Roland say it. He talks about it nonstop. We need your support. So your financial support means everything to us to power us this movement, because there are some folks in this country that do not want us to have a Black news, a Black information station, a Black network, a Black platform like this, where we're having these types of conversations. And y'all can hear the differences of the type of views that we present on this show and on versus on other shows. And just as a network, we're giving you a broad look at the many different perspectives that exist in Black America. It's not just one thing. It's many different perspectives. So your support means everything. We're also streaming live on Amazon News on your Fire TV. We're on Amazon Prime Video now. We make sure y'all check us out there. We're available on Prime Video under the Prime Video app under Live TV and News, or you can go to the website, Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV, the news. And we're also on Freevee as well as on Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right, folks, so let's jump back into it. And my crew is they just chatting it up, man. When we talk to Michael Blake, they got a lot to say. Well, I'm gonna see if y'all got a lot to say as I bring up our next special guest. This is a woman that is on the front lines of changing the culture in corporate America, especially when it comes to things like Blackness, and how she's doing her part to combat anti-Blackness within the business world. So we want to welcome to the airwaves of the culture and the Black Star Network, Dr. Kerry Mitchell-Brown, who serves as the founder principal of KMB, and she is an equity strategist and cultural architect. Dr. Kerry, good afternoon. Welcome to the culture. How are you today, sis?
Good afternoon. I am doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for asking. And more importantly, thank you for being here to join us for this conversation.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Let's get started.
Let's get started. All right. First and foremost, Dr. Kerry, for those who may not be familiar, because language means a lot, what does it mean to be an equity strategist and cultural architect? I mean, it sounds like you moving mountains and you raising the heavens. I mean, what we doing here, sis? Talk to us. What does that actually mean? What kind of work does that do? What does that work entail?
Yeah. What it actually entails is, there are business strategies. There are business strategies around products. There are business strategies around services. And there's also business strategy around equity. And if it's not a strategy within your organization, it's not a strategy. If it's not a strategy within your company, then you don't move on it. We see things get attention, they get resourced when it's actually a strategy. And if you have a strategy, you need a strategist to help you move it. A cultural architect is just that. We can, say, hey, we're going to change things, but we paint the walls. We change the wallpaper. An architect is like, how is this built? What is in the way that we need to dismantle? And what do we need to put in place so that we can actually have the forward direction that is actually required for the things that we espouse as a company and as people who actually want to see change.
So this is some major stuff. This is transformative work you're talking about doing within the business structure, because if it's not just a change in strategy, you're talking about changing culture, and this is the show, the culture. So you're talking about behaviors, you're talking about traditions, you're talking about values in some cases. So this is a very, even though it's not considered to be tangible, the intangibles of who we are and how we operate, it speaks directly to those things.
We're talking about seismic shifts. We're talking about creating the conditions where everyone feels valued, that there are high levels of respect, and no matter where you are, where you enter, where you stay, that your contributions are valued. Those are basic human needs, and we have somehow lost meeting those. And we're talking about creating organizations. Companies should be sites for learning about equity and fair treatment, and those companies that are willing to put in the work and make those seismic shifts, I'm partnering with them to make that happen.
That's awesome. Look, Dr. Kerry, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want us to talk a little bit more about the work that you're doing. And I got a big question for you, Doc. I got a big question for you. So I'm going to hold it until we get back from the break. Folks, I want you to join me in the conversation as we talk to Dr. Kerry Mitchell-Brown, as we talk to her about the work of equity, inclusion, equity strategy, being a cultural architect, and why it's important for us to even have a conversation about addressing the issue of anti-Blackness in corporate America. So stay tuned. The conversation continues on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. I am joined by our second special guest, Dr. Carrie Mitchell-Brown, who is the founder and principal of KMB, but she is an equity strategist and cultural architect. She has done major work in organizational development. She's a social justice advocate. She works with individuals, organizations, and businesses and corporations. And she is the one that you will call on if you want to create a different culture within your business, a holistic cultural shift, as he said, a seismic shift in your business. And more importantly, this is not about profits as it is about people. This is about making sure that everyone understands the value of each other. And I think this is interesting because we put this under the context of anti-Blackness in corporate America. I got two big questions for you. I thought I had one. Now I got two. One is, Dr. Carey, do you see, what grade would you give corporate America in their stance in relationship with Black folks? Is corporate America more open to Blackness, or is it less open to Blackness, or there hasn't been really any change? And I'm going to use the metric that everybody else uses. Since George Floyd of 2020, 3 years later, we're talking about race and white supremacy. We're talking about all these things, but is corporate America listening?
I believe that corporate America can take the lead on this. I would say that there's still a lot of work to do in order to do that. I mean, they are impacted by what's happening in the world. I mean, we have not made a ton of progress. I mean, our numbers do not lie. Our maternal rates, our murder rates, our maternal death rates, our education rates, our incarceration rates, they're all still disproportionate. There's still disproportionate access and opportunity and success within organizations. And without doing something intentional, sort of getting under the hood, identifying what's getting in the way and doing something different, we will continue to get the same things we always got. We will continue to have the disproportionate impact around success in companies that we see outside. And so it takes some intentionality from everyone, especially the leaders at the top, making the investments. I say invest now or go bankrupt later, and we're seeing that happen.
So that sounds like a grade of D.
I would say we're not passing. D's do not mean degrees at this time.
So is it? Oh, can we say D? Like, I give corporate America a D right now for its efforts to really include, have a more culturally competent approach to things. Can we say that?
Yeah, I would say overall, a D, a C minus, at best. I mean, when we ask Black folks in organizations, do you feel seen? Does your manager really know you? Are they invested in your success? Is my voice heard? The company says it values diversity, equity, and inclusion, but do people that look like me have my shared experience in positions and leadership at my company? We know the answer to those questions. I mean, we're talking to our friends and we can get the answers to those questions. What does that look like within their organization? And I would say that we have more no's than we do yeses, and so there's still a lot of work to do across the board. That's not saying that that is the case for every corporation, but for many, I would say we not passing or barely.
I'm gonna keep it real with you, Dr. Karen. I don't like that diagnosis. That's sad.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's sad because you made it. I'm saying it's sad because of I
The
believe
experience.
I
That
would
is
agree
sad for
with
the
you.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the state of affairs that we find ourselves in. Charlene F., you said corporate America always gets shook up when they see us shine. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, and to Charlene's point, I would agree. I feel like corporate America only sees Black folks when it's money to be made off of Black folks, right? Like that sense of Blackness. I'm reading a book right now. This is a fascinating read, folks. It's a book by New York Times columnist and journalist David Brooks, and it's a book that's called "How to Know a Person." The art of seeing others deeply and being deeply seen. And Mr. David Brooks goes into, if you read any of David Brooks's columns in the New York Times, he's like a social scientist. He talks about morality and all of those things. One of my favorite columnists. And just to know that we are still, like, to say it the way you said, we are still at a place of where a lot of work needs to be done after all of this.
Yeah.
After all of this. And one of the things that he mentioned in his book, which I think is very true, is that we just don't take the time. We're just not intentional about wanting to see people the way they should be seen and they ought to be seen. And I think that speaks volumes. Like, we're so caught up on the money. We're so caught up on the aesthetics that we lose sight of the person behind the money. We lose sight of the person that create the aesthetic, to the point where it becomes this transactional relationship. And I think corporate America, I remember when George Floyd was killed. This is just 3 years ago, Dr. Carey. When George Floyd was killed, just 3 years ago. And you remember when all these major corporations talk about, man, we stand with social justice and equity, and we stand Black. I remember turning on Netflix and Blackness, Black Lives Matter, and all of this stuff. And then they even went as far as to say, Doc, oh, well, we're going to throw some money at these causes. And then a year or so after the killing of George Floyd, when they did a report, a number of places did an actual report on which companies actually came through on their promises and pledges. It was less than like 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so disheartening. It is so disheartening. They espouse commitments to do better in the future.
Right.
And the future came. The future was now. The future was then. The future came. And there was still not a ton of progress. Right.
Absolutely.
And so what is that gap? What is that gap? So I work with corporations on narrowing that gap over time. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. And there's this thing around what are the human behaviors that are required to address it. Right. And so, again, not understanding that if we actually ensure that people are fully seen, that they are fully heard, that they are respected, that they are invested in, we actually make more money organizationally, right? And so that way people are bringing their best selves, they're bringing their best work, and they're doing they are doing they have the perfect conditions to maximize the labor force in a way that actually works for everyone, and it's not this transactional nature on just doing the bare minimum.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, Doc, we're going to take another quick pause, and I'm going to share with you what some of our culture crew is saying about this issue of being seen, and more importantly, combating anti-Blackness in corporate America. Folks, continue to post your comments and your questions and your thoughts as we're streaming live on YouTube under Roland Martin. Go to Roland Martin's YouTube page, join us in the conversation, and we'll try to highlight as many of your comments as possible on the other side. So stay with us. The conversation continues. Dr. Carrie Mitchell Brown, as we talking about anti-Blackness in corporate America, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking to Dr. Carrie Mitchell Brown, who is an equity strategist and cultural architect, as we're talking about combating anti-Blackness in corporate America. And this is a ongoing conversation, Dr. Kerry. You know, we're not going to cover everything in the next few minutes, obviously, but it's certainly
Sure.
something that affects each and every one of us, whether you're black or white, whether you're Asian or
Absolutely.
Latino. It affects us all. Now, so I want to know, and then I want to share with you just some comments. Why should we even be concerned about being seen? Why should we even be concerned about changing the culture of anti-blackness in corporate America? Shouldn't we as black folks kind of get the message that, look, if they don't want you there, you don't need to be there? What's your take on that?
My take on that is we deserve the same conditions as everyone else to work. And why should that just be reserved? That's a form of anti-blackness in itself, that black people should just accept the status quo and go someplace else, right? If companies say that they are we're part of the workforce. We help to build this country. Our ancestors helped to build this country, this economy, this place that a lot of organizations and companies are getting rich off of and staying rich on. Yeah, we belong here. We talk about it as if it doesn't belong to us, as if we can't be a part of it, or to change, to instigate change, or to promote change and support the changes that are happening. So we absolutely belong there.
So we belong there. Okay.
Absolutely.
I think I would agree with you. Let me go to what some of our culture crew is saying about this whole conversation, Dr. Kerry. Taylor, you said first comes honesty and transparency. If you have a history of lying, inequity, and misrepresenting the facts, you are a threat, not trusted, not a co-worker. Start there. Would you like to respond to?
Yeah, I mean, we all have to do our individual work. Oftentimes in corporations, we are pitted against each other as Black people. Sometimes there's just few of us. And we know that Black people will take us out faster than white supremacy will take us out, right? So how do we work together? And am I lying? Like,
no,
I mean, it's
Black
true.
folks will cut. Unfortunately, some of our people will cut your throat faster than a butcher on a slice of steak.
Right. And so
they will just be like, "I'm losing my job over you." Hey, supervisor, this person, I heard a little something. They ready to take you out, man. Like, that's unfortunate. Right.
Yeah, but how do we not fall? Like, how do we not fall for that? How do we go in and support one another in doing this work? If we're the first, how do we leave the door open for others to follow? How do we mentor? How do we promote? How do we share and create access and opportunity for others? How do we demand that our managers and our leaders do the same?
Absolutely. Lana says, as long as you have racism, you will have anti-Blackness. What I do is participate in my company, Black ERG, and I voice my opinion in company surveys and speak specifically to Black issues. What's your take on that, Dr. Kerry?
Yeah, oftentimes we hear, like, I'm tired of saying the same thing. I'm tired of saying the same thing. Like, if you don't share your experience, like, take advantage of those opportunities to lift up what your lived experience in the organizations might be. And companies have to listen. And one of the things that I often say is to corporate leaders is, this might be hard to hear. And you have to hold at the same time. It is hard to say as a Black person, especially if there's potential that you might lose your job, you might not get a promotion, or you may be seen as a instigator and or a troublemaker. Like, respect, taking those things seriously is important.
That sounds like a gang mentality, though, when you think about it, doesn't it? It's like, you talk out, you speak out against us, and we're gonna reciprocate with punishment and consequences against you, even though here's the crazy part, Dr. Carey. Even though that criticism is given, but the criticism is really a way for us to be, for a way for those companies to be better. But then
Right,
you have,
absolutely.
and then you have folks that'll fight you and say, no, we're not this. You know what? You got an X on your back. You're a target now. And it's
Right.
like, that is absolutely insane. And I
Right.
think that that's part of the problem, you know, and I think that it creates a culture where, you know, just like we see in the street, I'm serious, like just like we see in the street culture, right? Snitches get stitches type of thing, right? Like you're going to suffer the consequences for speaking truth to power to help a company be better.
That's right. You know, one of the things that I often advise is that we have to create the conditions that is broad enough for us all to journey together and to learn together. Because we're all coming at this at different places and at different rates. We often hear that this is really hard work, and we set it up as being hard, and it really isn't as complex as we think it is. And it is not as simple as living by the golden rule. It's much harder than that. It's complex situations that require simple interventions. And sometimes it's just slowing down. And it may take years. It's prioritizing what has the largest impact that will solve most of the symptoms that people are feeling within organizations, and take some of those on, and then build upon those successes and continuing to do the work. And also there's individuals that have to do their own work as well. So there's work that
Yeah.
individuals have to do that's outside with therapy, right? So if as a Black person, you are reacting to every time somebody, says something to you, well, you can't do that within organizations, right? So what is the work you individually have to do as a Black person so you're not triggered every time somebody gives you a look in a way that takes you back to a time where things didn't go quite so well, right? And then what is the organization, what's the company's responsibility to creating an environment to where there's not discrimination, to where there's not bias, to there's unfiltered access to opportunity and growth, to where you can really tap into the promise of really talented and smart people within the organization, and you create the conditions to do very good work and at the same time make a lot of money.
You make a lot of money. There it is. Look, we got to take a quick pause, Dr. Carey. When we come forward, let's talk about the mental health consequences that you talked about. Impact. Let's talk about the consequences, the mental health consequences for Black folks in corporate spaces and that are part of companies that encourages anti-Blackness, how we get ourselves out of that quagmire. Folks, the conversation continues on the other side, so stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking to Dr. Carrie Mitchell-Brown, who is an equity strategist and a cultural architect, as she does the work of combating anti-Blackness in corporate America. And we're talking about it, so we would love to get your take on it, folks, as you join us in the chat as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. Dr. Carrie, let's go back to just getting some more thoughts from our online culture crew. You are not a victim. You said people have to choose, and well, you know what? I'm gonna hold this point until just in a few moments. So you are not a victim. This is a great point that you're making about an exit plan, and I want to talk to you about that, Dr. Carey. But I do want to kind of get your take on the implications. You talked about impact. And often we actually encourage people. I think in our culture of capitalism, I think our culture of social mobility, the drumbeat is get into corporate America, make a name for yourself, make a shitload of money, right? And then at the same time, you know what I mean? Think about people that look like you on their way up to the top, right? But I wonder, like, you're going through all of these things. It's like I'm watching and I know this has been out for a minute. I'm watching the show The Other Black Girl on Hulu, and it's a great movie. It was a great series. But one of the big things that they talk about is just this rise of, you're part of a white company that has been white and stoic and has not, really thought and considered about the interests. They have not matured. They have not evolved over the years. And how this Black woman is a part of this company, and she is like the consciousness of this company, right? And I find that Black folks who go into corporate America, I know our people don't always want to be the consciousness. We don't have to want to carry that weight, that we got to be the conscious to wake white folks up in a company that has 400 workers. When people see you, they, oh boy, here it come. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot. So talk to us about like the mental health impact of working in a space that you have to claw your way, you have to fight your way to get seen, to be heard, and to have your presence felt.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough. And I've been there before, being the only one or only few and being the moral compass. And, for a company, especially around the racial and gender justice work and sort of how they are doing. And it can be taxing. It is important to take care of yourself. and being very clear on the things that you can change, have the ability to change, can influence, and being clear on the things that you cannot. And there's individual care that is absolutely required. Who are you partnering with outside of the organization to ensure that you are not going crazy, right? And so, because often it's like, is this real? Is this really happening?
Just
And
like in the show, that's what's happening,
yeah,
right? It's like, I love the show. It says paranoia gets a promotion, and it's like you become paranoid. You lose your sense of self in that process.
yeah. You do lose your sense. You do lose your sense of self, and you begin to rationalize the things that are not rational, right? And so, how do you stay centered? How do you keep your balance? And what is your valuation on when it's time to go? And so, oftentimes, I encourage people in companies that is doing this work, especially diversity, equity, and inclusion work. If you cannot change where you live, like change where you live. And for companies who actually cycle through a number of really talented, brilliant, bright Black folks, it's like, hey, what's happening here? That
But
you
do you take up, and I hear you, but is that a fight that you encourage people, or you encourage Black professionals to take on? You see what I'm saying? Like, going back to the show, the protagonist in the show, she takes on the fight, right? Based upon some things that happened before she even got in the door. So, but isn't that kind of asking for a lot? If you're a Black professional, you're working for some of these top tier companies, Fortune 500 companies. You might be working for Amazon. You may be working for Walmart. And I'm talking about in a managerial supervisory capacity, right? You might be working for some telecommunications company, whatever company it is. But then you have to be great at your job, and then you got to be an advocate. You got to be great at your job, then you got to be an activist. You got to be great at your job, and now you represent Black America in the boardroom.
Yeah, I would not encourage anybody to take that on purpose, right? If that is not what you are interested in doing, and understanding what that requires, and having the support systems in place to take care of yourself, right? You can't do it alone. No one can do it alone, Black or white. It takes a whole crew of folks and resources in order to do this work. So no, don't take it on, and don't take it on alone, for sure. And sometimes we find ourselves in those roles because we are one or two, and we hold these personally held scripts from our families, from our education, and just from the sheer desire of what success looks like, or what we believe success looks like. And sometimes we have to be introspective and reevaluate and change, and some of us, we have to experience it before we know we need or want something very different. And the reality is, some people have life situations that require for them to make these strategic choices, so that they're set up to do something very differently. And that is a strategy as well.
All right, let's go to Real Brooklyn. You said there is white culture, Black culture, and finally corporate culture. Guess which culture is more important? Accept it, play the game, and make that money. Stop tripping.
Yeah, sometimes you have to know how the system works, and being able to know how the system works is important. There's one thing that's for sure. You cannot educate your way out of being Black. You can't income your way out of being Black. It doesn't matter if you start at the entry level of the organization, you Black. If you're at the highest level of the organization, that you are Black. And there are certain things that are reserved for Black folks in corporations, when corporations don't do the work and make the proper investments in ensuring equitable and fair workplaces.
Absolutely. Charlene F., you said you can't change people's mind, but the approach to you will change when you are asked to attend meetings. Secret may be they need your input, but not say it. So I guess she's just talking about the fact that, if you change, if you feel like the culture in your company is not inclusive, then, and you bring these things up and then they still don't change their mind, then it requires, and I agree with Charlene on this, sometimes you just say, you know what, if you decide to stay with that company, hey, I'm gonna change my view on it. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna keep burdening myself with the acts, with the bad behavior of other people. And
That's
I
right.
think that,
That's right.
and I think that's, and I know some
That's
people
right.
don't say this, Dr. Carey, but I know that there are people, white people, other black people, whoever, that when it comes to black folks, they like, well, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to let them worry about that.
Yeah, here's what I say. I say don't overestimate your ability to change someone, and certainly don't underestimate your ability to change. And what I mean when I say that is I'll have an idea of what I want to accomplish inside a corporation when I go in, right? I'm working
Right.
towards that, working towards that. But there are often systems, practices, and processes that remind us who's important and who's a nobody, right? And we can work, within that system to try to change it, and try to instigate, something else happening. We'll raise our hand, say, hey, this is our experience. And sometimes we even get the privilege of providing feedback because they'll want to know, well, resource groups, or how are we doing with Black folks? Please come and tell us. And we'll tell you. And we'll also tell you what we may want you to, what you can do to get a different outcome, and you don't invest in it and you don't change it. There's only so much. So at some point, it's like, hey, I have 2 kids at home that actually count on me to get this paycheck. And so I'm going to let y'all do what y'all do. These are the requirements for me to meet my job. I am a top performer, so I'm going to excel a little bit, and I'm going to keep it moving.
Absolutely. No friends, no new friends, right, Dr. K? No. You're like, you know what? I don't need this. Y'all not coming home with me. At the end of the day, when it comes at 5 o'clock, I'm out. I'm gone.
Yeah. And I can be friendly. We can be friendly.
We can be cordial.
Sure.
You know how, hey, Dr. K, you know how black folks be like, I'm cordial.
That's right. That's right. Well, we work here. We're co-workers, right?
Right. Right.
And I'm still going to be a professional, and I'm still going to do my job. But the system does not allow itself for different things. Like, corporations are built and structured to get the results that corporations get. And again, without some architectural changes and seismic shifts, that will continue to happen.
There it is. Let me see. Let me get one more comment in before we take our final pause. I think I saw something. Oh, you are not a victim. You said people have to choose their companies wisely. If you don't like the culture of any company, work on an exit plan. I work in corporate America, and the second my company crosses me, I'm out. So it sounds like you are not, but you are not a victim. Is like, I am not going to be a victim. I am out. It reminds me, it's like that scene from What's Love Got to Do with It, where they were sitting in the diner, and she was like, you only have to hit me once, and she went out the door, and we never saw that sister for the rest of the movie.
That's right. I mean, we're not held captive in these companies. We're not held captives in these corporations. We do have agency, right? What's your exit strategy? Oftentimes, I plan my job 3 jobs from now. It's a strategy, right? What skills and experiences do I need to ultimately get to where I want to be, right? If I'm clear on that going in, and if I know the equation, when you get to the point to where it costs you more to be there than that they are willing to pay you, then it's time to go.
Come on, say that
But
one
you
more
have
time,
to be
Keith.
strategic. When it costs you more to be there than what they are willing to pay you, then it's absolutely time to go. And so you have to know how much you're worth, right? So as a mother, as a working mother, if I can't get to the things that are important to me and experience some of these things that I want to be doing as a working mother, and it costs me additional FaceTime hours just because y'all want to see FaceTime hours, but it's not being productive, and I can't go and to an award ceremony, for my children. Like that cost, that's a huge cost. That's a huge psychological cost for me and my children long term. Y'all can't pay me enough for that.
There it is.
I'm gonna have to figure out what's next, right? So planning ahead, and make some rational choices around who you engage with, what corporations you engage with, and why. Do your research. There's a bunch of information. There are more resources now than there were 10 years ago on how companies line up on diversity, equity, inclusion. We know that diverse companies, you get better outcomes, and diversity is always shifting, right? Because the makeup of the workforce is always shifting. Ask very explicit questions. When you're going in for an interview, you are also interviewing the organization, not them just interviewing you. No, you tell me, what's the experience of Black women in this organization?
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
Right?
There it is.
And if they can't tell you, that might be a sign that you may not want to park there, or you may want to park there for just a little bit, because there's something that you need to get to, because you're going to need it 2 jobs from now.
There it is right there. Dr. Carrie Mitchell-Brown. Dr. Carrie, what's a resource? Is there a website for you? Give us a resource.
Absolutely. You can find me at carriemitchellbrown.com. That's KERRY. Mitchellbrown.com, and I'm at all social media handles as Dr. Carrie M. Brown. You can find me there.
That's what's up right there. Dr. Carrie Mitchell-Brown, who is an equity strategist, who is a sister that's been working on the front lines of combating anti-Blackness in corporate America, doing the work of diversity, equity, inclusion. Dr. Carrie, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And more importantly, Dr. Carrie, thank you for being so good for the culture.
Hey, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I'm going to share with you what President Biden is doing to make history for Black America once again. Stay tuned. That is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. As we close out today's show, I figured, let's talk about something that will leave a feeling a little bit better about things and what's going on in the country. And this is something that is another history-making effort that President Biden and his administration has moved forward on. President Biden has officially appointed 2 more Black women to the federal bench, folks, as judges. Judge Juliet Sneed, nominated to the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Florida, and Judge Jacqueline D. Austin, nominated to the U.S. District Court for the District of South Carolina, are the latest judges, according to the reports, to be added to the president's historic number of Black women nominated to the federal bench. According to the Griot, this is another milestone for the president. Based on the statement that came out from the White House, the director of the White House Office of Public Engagement, Stephen Benjamin, put it out saying that the Biden-Harris administration continues to set records when it comes to professional and demographic diversity. So as we were talking about breaking through the anti-Blackness in corporate America, stuff is still being done. It's crazy that in 2023, you can still be the first Black person, or you can still be making history and making racial history in 2023. I think that's mind-blowing. But to date, folks, President Biden has officially appointed 32 Black women to be confirmed by the Senate to lifetime judgeships. I want y'all to put that, I want you to keep that in mind, folks. 32 Black women have been appointed by President Biden and been confirmed by the Senate to lifetime judgeships. This administration has appointed more Black women than any other administration in American history. Let's just share with you a little bit about Judge Sneed. Judge Sneed, let's put the second quote up very quickly, Lise. Judge Sneed has served as a U.S. magistrate judge for the Middle District of Florida since 2015. Before her judgeship, she worked as a partner and associate at law firms Ackerman LLP and Fowler White Boggs Banker, PA, for more than a decade. And then Judge Austin has been a U.S. magistrate judge for the District of South Carolina since 2011. Before that, she worked in private practice at Womble, Carlisle, Sandridge, and Wrights, PLLC, where she started as an associate in the late 90s and worked her way up to being partner in 2006. So big shout out to President Biden, to the Harris and to his administration. What was that, the shout out, Owen? There we go. I'm about to say that shout out Owen sounded kind of like, okay, I'm sorry. This is not a major news. But again, big shout out. I mean, look, this is what we've been talking about, right? Having that level of representation. Here's the thing. We got to make sure that even though the president is doing some things right there, that we got to keep holding his feet to the fire. We got to keep holding the vice president's feet to the fire to the situation. But for as of right now, history has been made once again, putting more Black women into federal judgeships. And I know Donald Trump enjoys that. I know Donald Trump enjoys that. I know he's excited. Oh, 2 more Black women that could determine the fate. That could possibly determine it. He hasn't done anything in South Carolina, but he may have. I don't know. But I'm sure he's like, oh, more Black women sitting in the judge's chair. Excellent. Awesome. So again, President Biden, thank you for, again, making that historic announcement. But more importantly, we hope that this changes the conversation about Black folks in legal spaces. And more importantly, getting to the roots of the legal disparities that's facing Black folks, Black boys, Black girls, Black men, and Black women. So that is something to be said there. All right, folks, that's it for today's show. I thank each and every one of you for joining me. Big shout out to you, my online culture crew, always coming through like no one else does. So thank you for checking in. Make sure y'all do your due diligence, share the show, tag me on it. I'll share it, let folks know. You can shoot a share on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever for social media platform you use. Make sure you put the word out here. The culture is having these conversations, and Black Star Networks is continuing to have these conversations like no other space. And that's why we always encourage you folks, go to our website today, download the app for free, follow us on social media, and most importantly, give something to continue to power this movement that we are a part of. Go to blackstarnetwork.com today. We would love to get your support. Again, it's blackstarnetwork.com today. I want to thank all of our special guests, Mr. Michael Blake, Dr. Kerry Mitchell-Brown, for joining us on the show today. I want to thank my production team, Joe, Shannon, Maddie, Chris, Lise, and King Keenan, for making today's show happen. And of course, I want to thank you. my online culture crew joining us. Oh, folks, also follow me on social media. If you haven't had a chance, you can connect with me. You can follow me at The Real Farajii on Instagram and on Threads. And I'm at Farajii on Twitter, Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. And I would love to connect with you. Lana sent me this. Maybe we should talk about this on Friday, as we close out the show. But just some of the crazy ass Halloween costumes that I saw pictures of. What the hell? Hopefully your Halloween, you being out and about, everybody was safe. But I saw some wild costumes, man, wild stuff over the past 24 hours. So it was very, very interesting. But big shout out to you, Lana. Thank you, sister, for always keeping me up to date and keeping me posted about things. All right, folks, stay with us. 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture, right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Have a great evening. Peace.